I think Philadelphia fans need to show some cojones and forget about it. You got the best team in football. Don't be scared of it. Say it. Say it.
And a good undefeated Monday morning. Eagles fans, appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365. You got your Mac and Mac bros, McMullen and McDonald here to hang with you for the next 2 hours. It is a non-game recap Monday. We've had 2 out of the last 3 weeks be just that because of the bye week and also the Eagles playing on Thursday night. So we recapped that one on Friday. So we got an entire week plus a day to get ready for the next Eagle contest on the field, which would be the Commanders on a Monday night, full week ahead before we get to another Eagles game. J Mac, how was your non-covering the Eagles weekend?
It was good, Jody. Got to see some other teams. Got to see the Washington Commanders up close. Some good, some bad with that team. Got to see a little Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. The two teams that are supposedly better than the Eagles, and I don't think they are. By the way, we could start there. I think Philadelphia fans need to show some cojones and forget about it. You got the best team in football. Don't be scared of it. Say it. Say it.
They have the only undefeated team in football. That's for damn sure. And oh, by the way, yeah, the Buffalo Bills stubbed their toe yesterday against the Jets. Jets. How about that taking receipts head coach of the New York Jets, Robert Saleh, beating the supposed best team in the National Football League? And along those lines, I did check it this morning. The Buffalo Bills are still, I get all worked up about power rankings, which I know means absolutely nothing. It's a beauty.
By the way, they'll mean nothing this week too when the Eagles are number one. They'll still mean nothing,
probably,
but they should be number one.
They're gonna probably jump to number one across the board, as they should. And you're right, it means nothing. But you know where it does actually mean something, John? At least to individuals around the country in their pockets. They're still the second choice in the betting markets. The Bills, despite losing yesterday, are still the favorites to win the Super Bowl, somewhere between 2 and 3 to 1. And in most of the outlets, you can still get 5 to 1 on the Eagles to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I saw something from Dan Orlovsky this morning or last night, or he tweeted about something about Patrick Mahomes, and if you don't have somebody like 15, you can't win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, they're coming off a game where they had to scratch and claw to win in overtime. The guy was spectacular. He threw the football, I think, 68 times. He had 446. My point here, Jody, is though Tennessee's playing with a quarterback who can't, they have no confidence, can't play. They don't even let him throw the football.
Right.
And they almost beat him. There are other ways to win a football game. You've heard me talk on this show that playoff game last year with the Chiefs and Bills. Oh, we can't keep up with that. And this was people around the league. No, you can't keep up with that. But guess what? Play a different way.
Right.
As you mentioned, the Bills have lost twice. Kansas City has lost twice, and they almost lost again. So there are other ways to win football games. I get so frustrated with that. Yes, if it's a shootout, you're going to have a very difficult time keeping up with Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. But you just saw it with your Jets yesterday. You can play different ways. You can do different things. You can win games in other manners. And the Eagles are the most well-rounded team in football. So, I think, let's be honest. I mean, you've been around this town for a very long time on the airways, Jody McDonald. This town is always waiting for the other shoe to drop and always waiting for bad things. They always consider themselves the underdogs. And then you have Saturday, and the Phillies lose on even the Philadelphia Union, the first city in history to lose championships on the same day. And the Union, by the way, we'll have to get Kevin Kincaid on. They just totally blew that. I mean, they snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. So Philadelphia is used to this. And they're saying, I don't know if we're that good. I don't know. No. No, you're not. Throw away the underdog mask. That's what I said. Throw them away. You're not the underdog. You're the big dog. You're the best team. Now, this is the NFL, and the great equalizer is always injuries. So we talked about power rankings. We're entering week 10. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you get the wrong injuries. But if this team is healthy, they're better than Buffalo. They're better than Kansas City. They're a better football team. They do more things well than those two teams. Simple as that.
And I agree with you basically across the board on everything you said. But you did mention injuries. And the Eagles have been relatively injury-free. No one gets through a season without injuries, and even injuries to key guys. Everybody's going to get their games missed because of injury. To this point, comping the Eagles to all other teams, and specifically the teams that we mentioned in the same breath with the Eagles as the top 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the league, they've had less injuries to significant guys than I think anyone else. But they did suffer an injury on Thursday night with Jordan Davis going down. And despite winning against the Texans are one of the dregs of the NFL at this stage. There were some weaknesses that popped up, and the biggest of which is the other team's ability to run the football and the ability of the Philadelphia Eagles to tackle. They right now are the 32nd ranked tackling team in the NFL. For those of you who haven't been paying close enough attention, 32nd would be last. There are 32 teams in the National Football League, and according to Pro Football Focus, they would be 32nd. After another bad tackling night against the Texans, they fell from 31st to 32nd to dead last in the National Football League. Johnny Mac, you just gave us a nice little 2-minute soliloquy on why the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the National Football League. Can they sustain that being the worst tackling team in the NFL?
Well, I've been talking about that for weeks, Jody, as you know. I've been bringing up the nitpicking. I've been talking about the tackling basically since week 1 when they missed 15 against Detroit. And then they overcorrected. They got a little bit better, and I expected them to. And then they've fallen back into those ways, and I think they missed 14 against Houston. So it was almost back to the Detroit levels. It's a give and take, and they have, decided it's more important. We just talked about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Everybody's out there. Orlovsky's out there. You can't do this. You can't do that. They have decided as an organization, it is more important to stop the passing game than a running game. And for the most part, I agree with that. For the most part. We'll see when Derrick Henry arrives, and hopefully Jordan Davis is back for that game, by the way. That's his first game eligible to be back, and I hope he's back for that game. But
which oh, by the way, sorry to interrupt. You won't know, I won't know, Eagles Nation won't know. Nobody will know because they will keep it like nuclear code secret. The high-level secrecy of how Jordan Davis is actually recuperating will be off the charts.
Yeah, you're correct about that. And, he might be rusty, and they're probably not going to have an easy time, even with him stopping Derrick Henry in a running game. So there's another example. They're going to have to win a game in a different way. They're not going to stop him for, at least, you hope 150 doesn't turn into 220 with Derrick Henry, but if he's healthy and he's ready to go, you're probably going to have some issues. Doesn't mean you can't win the game. And that's the Eagles have made this conscious decision. Look, everybody loves that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson leads the NFL in interceptions, and he's this playmaker, sort of like Trayvon Diggs last year when he led, and everybody would say, well, yeah, but he gives up big plays. There's a give and take to this, Jody. Yep. And Jonathan Gannon says all the time, every defensive call has a weakness. And some guys, he calls it, some guys are put under stress and tough duty, and you got to stand up to it. That's just the way it is. It's a give and take. And they've decided that it's more important to have the playmakers and Slay and Bradbury and Gardner-Johnson, and they're all making plays. and even Kaiser White and Javon Hargrave up front, they're all making plays. But yeah, they're going to miss some tackles. They're not a great tackling team. And they're 8-0 being the worst tackling team. So if you look at those Pro Football Focus rankings, though, all the other categories, they're pretty much top 10 across the board. Most of them top 5. So they're not perfect, but special teams is another issue. And they're bottom 10 there. But yeah, they're not perfect and they don't tackle well. And they're never going to be a good tackling team with so many undersized players and so many guys who were concerned about making plays in the passing game. So you got to live with it. There's a little bit of a give and take.
Right. And they've lived with it to the tune of it ain't no record so far, which is certainly doable. I want to run one other thing by before we get our first guest up. We got 2 good guests coming your way. Frequent contributors here on Birds 365. Chris Franklin from NJ.com, who jumps on with us usually day after a game. But like John, he was traveling back from Houston on Friday, so we're getting him up today. And then our number 2, our bud Rob Motti, who we haven't had on in about a month, covers the entire National Football League lead reporter for Associated Press, is going to jump in hour number 2. So yesterday, John, I'm watching all the action after suffering through the Phillies' loss on Saturday night. Get back into it on Sunday morning with the NFL to get ready for the CBS show that I do Sunday nights. And I got the Red Zone channel on because they do a great job jumping around from game to game to game to game. I got 2 games on, so I'm doing the remote control thing. But I'm realizing that the Red Zone has got one game they almost never go to, and it's the Patriots and the Colts. And there's a reason for it, because the Colts stink. They're just doing nothing on offense. Jonathan Taylor was inactive for the game, and you got Sam Ehlinger pulling the trigger for the Indianapolis Colts. Start number 2. They moved off Matt Ryan. Supposedly Ryan has an injury. I would kind of question that as to whether he's actually hurt or not. I think they wanted to get another quarterback in there, so the injury was exacerbated. But Sam Ehlinger has started the last 2 games, and his numbers are surely not awe-inspiring. Yesterday, just snuck over 100 yards. I think he had like 103, 109, something like that, in the very low hundreds. And the Colts scored 3 points. Three points yesterday. Lowest output in the entire National Football League. And then it dawned on me, they've got another quarterback on that team. Matt Ryan is injured / bench.
Yeah.
Sam Ehlinger is not good enough to be an NFL quarterback. And Nick Foles is standing on the sideline holding a clipboard, not getting put into a game in which the Colts scored 3 points. You've got one of the greatest off-the-bench quarterbacks, at least for a short run, in the history of the National Football League, and Frank Reich hasn't put him in yet. 2 questions. Number 1, why? And number 2, you don't think this can continue with Sam Ehlinger playing. We're 13 days away from the Eagles having to go to Indianapolis and take on the Colts. You know it's going to be the Eagles against Nick Foles in 13 days, don't you?
Nah, I don't think so.
No, you think they're going to stick with Sam Ehlinger?
Well, and if they don't, they'll go back to Matt Ryan. I mean, their whole thought process, and I presume, and who knows what they're thinking, to be honest, because they're making.
Here's what I'm thinking: Frank Reich's coaching for his job.
Well, if he's coaching for his job,
it's got to be unbelievably hot. And he's going to stick with Sam Ehlinger, knowing full well he can get his you-know-what fired in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get fired in the 2. You never know. I mean, Jim Irsay.
This is
kind of a wild card
we're talking about here.
Yeah, he's kind of a wild card. He gave him the vote of confidence, but he's kind of a wild card. If he felt, he was coaching for his job, he wouldn't have benched Matt Ryan. I mean, Matt Ryan is not nearly what he once was, obviously, and they're going to move on. And that's been the problem with Indianapolis, with the exception of Phillip Rivers, who only played 1 year because he retired, but was tremendous in that 1 year. And as Nick Sirianni will point out, Phillip Rivers got 2 people jobs. He got Nick Sirianni's job and he got Matt Eberflus's job because the Colts were really good that season. And Phillip Rivers was really good, but he walked away. And that's what happens when you have aging quarterbacks. You never know. They might just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm done. But in the case of Matt Ryan, I mean, he's worlds better than Sam Ehlinger, and he's worlds better than Nick Foles, even at this declining stage. So if you're coaching just desperately trying to make your best chance to win a game, you're going to play Matt Ryan. My assumption is they know he's not the long-term answer, so they wanted to try the kid and see if there was anything there, and there's nothing there. And they probably should have known that. But if you're not going to go from one aging quarterback to another aging quarterback, and the first aging quarterback's a lot better than the second aging quarterback. I mean, that makes no sense to me. But not a lot of what the Colts do makes sense over the past few years. And it wouldn't surprise me if Irsay went back on his vote of confidence, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it in season. You see what's going on in Carolina. Nothing's accomplished by firing coaches in season, other than, I guess, you have a little bit of a head start doing the due diligence, but you can't talk to them.
We questioned the Eagles when they waited 1 week before they fired Doug Peterson.
Yeah, and how'd that work
behind in the entire process?
Yeah, but they got the best coach by far. By
far or by luck?
By luck, but by far.
Okay, yeah.
I agree on both.
On both fronts, you're right. Both can be right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they got lucky, but they got the best, and they were late. The point is, you can't talk to these guys. Now, you can get your ducks in a row, but a lot of people say, Sean Payton this, Sean Payton that. He's not going to Carolina. He's not. He's going to go to Dallas if Dallas doesn't win, and if Dallas isn't there, he's going to go to another nice scenario. Probably not Miami anymore, because Mike McDaniel's doing a heck of a job. So, his window is shortening, but he's not going to Charlotte. Nothing against Charlotte. It's a nice town, but everybody knows Sean Payton's not going there. So I don't know what the advantage really is.
All right. So I'm going to put you on the record right now, and I'll be willing to jump right on with you. Next week, the Colts have the Broncos at home. Certainly a winnable game. Denver hasn't played all that well. Russell Wilson's status up in the air. So that's a game that, if they're still in the mix, which they are, they're in second place. They're below 500. They're 3-5-1. But with Tennessee letting that game slip out of their grasp last night, and Jacksonville and Houston both beneath them in the standing, they should still be very much motivated to get wins, starting with next week against Denver, and then the week after against the Eagles. 13 days from now, who's the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts?
If since it's election season, I'll go the 538 routes. I'll give you numbers. I'll say 40% Ehlinger, 35% Matt Ryan, and the rest Nick Foles. And it probably shouldn't be that high with Nick Foles.
All right. I'll give you the exact same numbers in the exact opposite order. Nick Foles' favorite to be their starting quarterback, 40%. Matt Ryan, 35%. I'll leave him in. Sam Ehlinger stinks. He can't play.
Well, I agree with that.
They put him out there next week against Denver, whose defense is actually not terrible. It's certainly better than their offense, led by the very highly paid Russell Wilson. He'll get nothing done again, so they'll have to make a change. So Ehlinger last at 15%, whatever. We got the exact same numbers, exact opposite order. Foles first, Ryan second,
and
third.
By the way, Matt Ryan, I don't know if it's real or not, but they did talk about some kind of injury, so I don't know if he's completely healthy, so that would affect things. But look, it tells me something that Sam Ehlinger started over Nick Foles with Frank Reich. Look, I think in any other town, nobody even considers this, but this is Philadelphia, and it's all Nick Foles and the Folesian Society. I mean,
and I'm not a member of the Folesian Society.
No, I know,
but it just makes too much sense for him not to be the quarterback against the Eagles 2 weeks
But
from now.
if Frank Reich thought Sam Ellinger was the better route to go than Nick Foles, what does he think of Nick Foles after getting him in practice at this point? I mean, I don't think he's starting here.
No, he's rolling the dice with the youngster because they know they've already seen enough Matt Ryan to go, yeah, that 2-year plan might not even be worth the 1-year plan. So let's roll the dice here. So they've seen 2 weeks of Sam Ellinger. I've seen enough. He's not an NFL quarterback. Nick Foles is still an NFL quarterback. Might not be
that. Do we know that? Because I mean,
yes, because he's already done it.
Yeah, but it's not.
He might not be, in your opinion, not seeing him in practice. We're all both just throwing darts at a dartboard here, but not seeing him in practice, who knows for sure. We do know he's already accomplished it. We've never seen Sam Ellinger be an NFL quarterback.
Well, I know he could play in 2018, but what year are we in?
2022.
2022 with a guy who knows him really well. And remember, forget about the benching of Matt Ryan. When Matt Ryan was the starter and the 2-year plan was still in place, and I know we got to get to break. I got to do this quickly. Sam Ellinger was the backup, not Nick Foles. So that tells me a lot. That tells me a lot that maybe Frank, it's one of those things where, like when Doug Peterson and the Eagles brought Jay Ajayi back, and one of my favorite Doug moments, he's not the same guy. I can't say what he said because it was off the record, but he essentially said he's not the same guy. Things move on. It doesn't stay in a stasis.
Understood. And I don't think Nick Foles' 2022 version will be the Nick Foles 2018 leading them to a Super Bowl win version. He's better than the other quarterbacks of the Indianapolis Colts.
Not better than Matt Ryan. Come on.
There's a reason why Matt Ryan's on the bench. And they can say they created this. No, there was no injury reported at the end of the game when last he played. And suddenly, during the week, all of a sudden, this injury cropped up to Matt Ryan. Yeah. He did not get hurt in the game, but somehow he became injured. Nick Foles, write it down, Johnny Mac. 13 days from now, the Philadelphia Eagles better be prepared to face Nick Foles because he's going to be starting.
Well, they're gonna beat that team like a drum, no matter who's at quarterback. They better worry about that front of the Washington Commanders. They got to get through that first.
First things first. All right, first things for us are going to be to talk to our first guest, our pal Chris Franklin from NJ.com. Going to jump in here on Birds 365.